everyone to the Leo Show. I'm your host, Leo. How is everyone doing? I'm sorry that took forever. Let me actually check here on my phone that our audio's good. How you doing, Audio Vibes? This has been the worst week for tech issues that I've had in my life, man. All right, we're good. Wow, that's terrible. It's just, it piles up. Like, I was here at 10. We were ready to go, and just simple stuff, bro. Like, simple stuff. It just pisses me off how annoying it is. But whatever. The show goes on. We must continue. We're having a good time. It's Friday. And you know what? This may work out in our benefit because this show's going to be a lighter, more fun show, I think, than most. So, get in the chat. Enjoy yourselves. Everyone have some fun. That was so annoying, man. That was like the most annoying thing I've had to deal with. But we're good. We're all good. How's everyone doing? Is everyone having a good time? Is everyone having a good time? I hope you are. I hope you guys, so you can really feel the pull of the weekend, huh? You can really feel it. We have not a lot to get through. We have some to get through. This is really just silliness, as I said. Tucker Carlson is gay? What? Maybe. And what's wrong with that? So we have a lot to get through. A lot of interesting stuff out of New York too, but we don't have to get to that. I think that we should start with some comic unrelated relief, which was this garbage here. For anyone that tells me that voting matters, please like, comment, subscribe, everyone. Please, I appreciate it. It helps the show keep going. But consider becoming a member. All of you guys are great. I appreciate you guys tuning in. So, and what's up, Audio Vibes? How you doing? Let's start with this crap. I saw this even being played on Spanish language media. That's how wide this went. For anyone that tells me that voting matters, that my vote counts, that I should get out there and vote, as you guys, some of you guys have repeatedly said, I need you to explain to me why that's the case after watching this. And we're going to watch the whole thing because I like to be tortured, so let's watch it, okay? This is who you vote for.
Mr. President, this is a photograph of the alien from the movie Alien. This is what you could end up looking like if you eat some of the raw, frozen shrimp being sent to the United States by other countries. Now, let me tell you what I'm talking about. In late August...
This is not AI. Hi, Audio. How you doing? This is not AI. This is real life. And I just don't know how... Let's continue with the rationale as to how you're going to end up being... What are these called? Xenopods? I don't remember. How you will end up one, to the point that he brought in an image of one to the Congress.
The FDA found that raw frozen shrimp from Indonesia was being sold in Walmart, specifically in Walmart stores in Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, Mississippi, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania.
This guy, you're paying his salary, by the way. I don't understand if this is supposed to be funny. It is funny in an absurd way, maybe, if you take it that way. But was he trying to be funny with this? Obviously, this man remembers Alien. What's up, I hate everything. Looks like a scene out of The Office. It does, man, but like, we're paying for it. You know what I mean? At least The Office never collected checks from us. How's New York, man? How's the New York Friday doing? Dude, I saw that in New York, because last time I was there, I've only been after COVID. And the nightlife was pretty ass outside of Queens. I did not check out the Bronx, but I heard it's pretty good in the Bronx and Harlem. In Manhattan and Alphabet City and all this, everything closed at like 2. And if it didn't, no one was there. And I was like, this is worse than Miami. What's going on here? And so, yeah, it sucked going out to New York. It was better to go out on Wednesdays than on Fridays. New York was really bad. How's a New York Friday treating you today, man? You got any nice clubs to go to? The Queens clubs were cool, but they were a little dodgy. They were cool.
Pennsylvania, Texas, and West Virginia. It was being sold under the Walmart label called the Great Value label. If you eat it, how could you end up looking like the alien in the Alien? Because the shrimp was radioactive. I kid you not. It had a radioactive isotope in it called cesium-137. It'll kill you. Even if it doesn't turn you into the alien if you eat this stuff.
This is insane, man. Like, oh yeah, let me get out there and vote. And the comments are just...
The next time you get in trouble, call a crackhead.
As I've said about him before.
I'm not pining for seriousness. It's pretty good. I'm not saying we have to be serious. I'm actually saying if you tell me to put my serious hat on, my serious cap, you are messing with me. Like, you do not understand that this is too absurd to even participate. John Kennedy is literally a clown. Like, this is clown behavior. Unemployment, all-time high for youth, all-time high. We're going to talk about that next week with our interview. All-time high, dude. All-time high. All-time high, 16 to 24, 25 through 32 demographics, right? Great stuff, but they're fighting for us because of the radioactive shrimp. It's like dumb Chernobyl, man. It really is. It can't. I'm not even mad at it. I can't even be mad at it. I had everything. Hey, Lee, I'm doing well. Good, you guys doing well. I'm doing great. You gotta be careful where you go. Some places are sus. Absolutely. The old heads always tell me that clubs in NYC are not the same as they used to be. Dude, look, because I have a lot of friends. I like to hang out with everybody. I have young friends. I have old friends. I have really smart friends. I have stupid friends. I have all kinds of friends because you got to hang out with everybody. That is a fact for life. You got to hang out with everybody. And so the main friend that I've hung out with in New York, well, I have two, but the main one that has some background, he's an older friend. I believe he's in his 50s. Great guy. But he lived in New York in the early 2000s and under Bloomberg. And when I was last there, it was his first time back in years. And he was like, this fucking blows, dude. Wow, this is way worse. And he's not like, he doesn't have a family or anything. You know, like he still parties. He parties hard. And he was like, this sucks. This isn't even fun anymore. Like, everything closes at 2. Might as well be in Miami. Miami's better. And I was like, all right. I mean, I'm not the only one saying it, you know? So... it's a shame, dude. All the club culture across the country has gone to ass because I don't know what it is, man. The drinks got too expensive. Everyone got screwed. It's a real shame because where else is there to socialize in this country? That's why everyone's turning into a psychopath. I'll drink to that. Audio says the radioactive shrimp memes are so funny. Yes, absolutely. YC says, what's up, King Leo? What's up, YC? How you doing? All right, man. All right. I laughed a lot today thinking of this title. Ben Shapiro literally has diarrhea in his brain, okay? Ben Shapiro, in between his ears, has a soup of diarrhea. If Ben Shapiro went to a neurosurgeon and they cut him open, it would smell like pure diarrhea because his brain is diarrhea soup. I can conclude that this week because... here we have, I'm telling you, we're taking this easy. We're taking this easy today. Not a lot of hard stuff. I watched this in preparation. The Stephen A. Smith interview with Ben Shapiro. If you don't know who Stephen A. Smith is also a diarrhea-brained, a sportscaster. Just total diarrhea soup, dude. If you put Stephen A. Smith and Ben Shapiro, if they hit each other's heads, diarrhea would come out. That's what would come out. Pure shit. They are diarrhea for brains. I'm telling you, dude. There was no other conclusion I drew from this. Like, this is crazy. You open Ben Shapiro's head, and there's diarrhea inside. There is no brain. It's not even in his brain. It's in his head. His whole cranium is excrement. Why do I say that? Why do I say that? Well, because we're going to see here. I mean, the fact, I got to say, before we start it, the fact that Stephen A. Smith, this is President Camacho territory, so that Stephen A. Smith is being taken seriously as a candidate and as a political commentator. Okay? And not to denigrate, everybody's got to eat. As I always say, I'm not going to shit on his grift. He's got to eat too. We all got to eat. Okay? Everybody's got to eat. And Stephen A. Smith saw that sports was not paying the bills. So he had to go get some food. And then went to politics. Okay? And that it's not his fault. It's the nihilist normie masses' fault that they take this guy seriously. Stephen A. Smith. This guy. And you know, it's a lot like Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart's another one of these guys who's retarded, who's like a total moron. And they want to draft him to run for president. Jon Stewart is 5'7". He's not going to win any race. Dude, I'm 5'9". I can't win the presidency. I can't. I'm too short. Draft Jon Stewart. We'll do an episode about that. Draft Jon Stewart. Yeah, okay. Why don't you draft fucking Tom Cruise? Because he's 5'7", but at least he's good looking and an actor. It's just crap, dude. Like, the quality of the slop is at its lowest tier. But anyway, Ben Shapiro is promoting his new book. Listen, if you're stumbling across this channel and you get mad at me for anything, please go read this book. Please. This is the literature that is for your level. The Ben Shapiro, Lions and Patriots, whatever the fuck it's called, that is what's for your level. Okay? You should not tune in here. You should go read the Ben Shapiro book. Okay? That's all I'll say. Don't get mad. Don't fight me. You know, before we watch this, it makes me tempted here. Let's look up the Ben Shapiro, the best one here. Ben Shapiro Climate Change Sell House. This one was pretty funny.
So let's say, for the sake of argument, that all of the water levels around the world rise by let's say 5 feet over the next 100 years, say 10 feet by the next 100 years, and it puts all the low-lying areas on the coast underwater, right? Which, let's say all of that happens. You think that people aren't going to just sell their homes and move?
Just one small problem. Sell their houses to who, Ben? Fucking Aquaman!
The greatest Ben Shapiro takedown. I'm not a climate change guy, right? But this was good. And that's the moment he should have stopped being taken seriously, because Ben Shapiro is truly one of the most malevolent actors. I don't even know why he's still relevant. Who is discovering Ben Shapiro and going, you know what? I do want to bomb Iran. And screw you, man. You shouldn't get any health care or welfare or, you know what? And I want free trade. Send more jobs to China. Who is doing this? Like, who is discovering this stuff? I remember when I was in college, people were discovering Ben Shapiro. They're like, oh, he's so smart. He's a short guy. He's motor mouth. But now, I mean, who's this stuff for, dude? If I wanted to hear George Bush talk shit, I'd tune into George Bush. Whatever. Everything says, yeah, that's what they always tell me. Different vibe back then. Dude, New York, it should have been, it's a shame, bro. Like, I really wish I had seen it. I wish I had moved to New York when Obama was president. I've never been a New York fan, even before I went, but it seems like that was the best time. Never forget, the internet was simping over Ben Shapiro's sister at one time. Yeah, Abby Shapiro. Absolutely. Abby Shapiro. With the big gazongas, right? The orange man broke Jon Stewart's brain. He was reasonable, down to earth pre-2016. Dude, but Ben Shapiro's, Jon Stewart's brain, the issue I always had with him, what I always disliked about, is that it was always this sarcasm and like very feminine energy from Jon Stewart. You know, he was never a masculine guy. He always was gross to me, you know? To me, even Colbert was better. I'm not a Colbert fan, but definitely better than John Oliver. Welcome to Last Week Tonight. I am your host, John Oliver. You know, just fucking Imagine tuning into that in the big 2025. You're gonna tune into John Oliver on HBO. I mean, dude, you have diarrhea brains if you're doing that. Imagine doing that. Imagine. It's not even. Oh, dude, we have Bill Maher tonight. They took it off last week. I told you I was gonna watch. Let's start this. But be prepared. This is mental diarrhea. What we're gonna be watching.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the debut edition of Straight Shooter with Stephen A. Smith. I know you usually see me on the Stephen A. Smith show, but that's primarily my sports show now. When I venture beyond the world of sports, it is Straight Shooter with Stephen A. Smith, and I'm going to get right to it quick, fast, and in a hurry because I have a very, very, very special guest in studio with me as promised. He is here to promote his new book. He is a conservative talk show host. He's got a great podcast with millions upon millions of followers. He is an author extraordinaire. He's one of the brilliant minds in America, if not beyond, even though we tend to disagree from time to time. I'm talking about the one and only himself, Mr. Ben Shapiro. Pleasure to see you again, man. How you doing?
It's an honor for you to have me. I really appreciate it.
Please, I appreciate it, man. I got to get right to it because Lions and Scavengers, that is the title of your new book. Why that title, Ben?
So the basic idea.
They should buy that book, Lions and Scavengers, and they should take it to no, even that's mean, dude. I was gonna say to like asylums, but it's just mean. Like who has the lack of intellectual capacity to read? Boomers. It's boomers. Boomers read this book. It has to be that. Why would you read anything Ben Shapiro has ever written? He talks so much garbage. Why would you assume it's different in print? Well, let's continue.
Is that human beings break down into two groups, lions and scavengers, but it really even goes beyond that. Inside each of us, we have a lion and we have a scavenger. The lion is the side of us that wants to build, that sees that institutions that are important need to be maintained, that wants to build social fabric, church, community, family, wants to go out and innovate and risk take and make our society stronger. And then there's the scavenger that's inside all of us that is envious of the people around us, envious of things other people have, and instead of channeling that towards something productive, want to tear down the entire system. And the fundamental thing that's important is that the system is to blame for my personal problems, my grievances, and therefore the system has to be absolutely destroyed. And you see this politically. This is not a right-left split. One of the things that's kind of interesting about this book in particular is that it does not make a right-left sort of pure binary comparison. There can be lions on the left, there can be scavengers on the right. It really is about a grievance-oriented mentality that has set in civilizationally in parts of the West that wants to tear away the civilization and sees the civilization as fundamentally bad, that there needs to be a revolution.
So beyond sociologists, beyond anthropologists, beyond legal expert, because he's a lawyer, Ben Shapiro has undertaken psychology. He is a psychologist who can break us down, all of us, into lions and scavengers. Inside you there are two wolves, and one of them is a lion and the other one is a scavenger. I wonder what Ben Shapiro, man, he's I can't tell what's something about him, man. It's like he's not aging, but he looks worse over time. It's truly amazing. His fit, he does not have that shit on, man. What does he wear? But all right. We have lawyer, political expert, climate change expert, food expert, Donald Trump expert, conservative expert, and now psychologist Ben Shapiro breaking down the human mind. YC says DeSantis will make this required reading in Florida schools. I certainly hope he does. And you know what? That is something that Ron DeSantis would actually do. I wouldn't put him past him, man. Your kids are going to learn the national anthem followed by reading Ben Shapiro's Lions and Scavengers at Miami-Dade Public Schools. How do you like that?
That destroys rather than seeking to build up, enrich, and make better.
Why did you decide to write this book now? You've been around for a while. You've been making noise for a while. You've had millions of followers for a while. Why now?
So
that's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of fucking money.
Because he needs money. Dude, because the show, Dude, let's be real. It's because the Daily Wire is not doing well. It's not doing well. I think everyone can see the cracks in that. If you're not aware, Jeremy Boring seems to have blown a whole lot of money that outfit had. They were faking a sell to Fox News that never came about. And Ben Shapiro is they were funding that operation with their own money, apparently, which is crazy. And I'm sure they need to recoup some costs and promote something. So they had Benny here put together this little book with ChatGPT, I assume. And, now they're going to grift. Good for them. Everybody's got to eat.
So most of my books come about because I have some sort of kind of broad idea, and then I sit down, I think about it, I research it, and then I sort of write it in a concerted period of time. This one was actually written over the course of the last 2 years or so. Mm-hmm. The inception point was right at the beginning of the book. It was November of 2023. It was about a month and a half after the October 7th attacks in Israel, the terrorist attacks by Hamas against Jews in the Gaza envelope. And I was supposed to debate at Oxford University. So I fly over to Britain, right, and my security team tells me I'm not allowed to stay in London, too insecure. Real security problems in London.
This is victim mentality. As we analyzed yesterday, this is all victim mentality, Benny. No, right? I mean, obviously there was this horrible event, right? But this is victim mentality. This is victim mentality. All right? Ben Shapiro is victimizing himself. Yeah, bro, this is... Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? Let's not get too into it because I think it's still sensitive. I'm starting to actually get annoyed with this foreign policy stuff that's going on. But I'm just going to say this is classic victim mentality. Ben Shapiro would not be happy with Ben Shapiro being a victim here. He says, I would rather watch, I don't think we can say that name on YouTube, but because at least it's entertaining. Ben has just been living off the early to mid 2010s. Yeah, dude, I agree with you because the other guy you mentioned, at least his ascendant in popularity or plateau at least, Ben Shapiro has been on a decline. Who's watching this? I mean, no, you know what? I'm full of shit, dude. No, I'm not. This has 50K views. No one is watching this. By the way, just so you can, I want you to know when you say I'm going to debate, I'm going to figure out what people. Let me read you the comments for this crap. Much respect for both men having a dialogue respectfully. Truly appreciate Stephen A. Smith for setting an example of proper civil discourse that is hard to find in today's society. This is awesome. We need more of this country is ever going to heal. What the fuck are they talking about, bro? This is what normies talk about, man. This is what a normie... Dude, a normie looks at a conversation between Ben Shapiro and Stephen A. Smith, the sportscaster, and this is what happens. Like they go, this is what heals America. This is what will bring down the national debt. Ben Shapiro and Stephen A. Smith talk. This is what's gonna get my son a job. Fucking nihilism, dude. Pure nihilism through and through. And that's why I don't debate people, and that's why I do not tell people to debate. Debating is a waste of time.
Weekend before, 300,000 people had been out marching in favor of Hamas against Israel and all the rest. So I'm staying about an hour outside of London. Then I go over to University of Oxford, one of the great historic educational institutions of the West, 1,000 years old. And there, too, there are serious security risks. You know, people shouting anti-Western, anti-American, anti-Israel, some anti-Semitic slogans. And I thought to myself, something that is quite scary is happening. Right? Something is very, very wrong. And what is it that's driving all these people together? Because one of the things that you saw was weird agglomerations of people. It wasn't just people who were interested in the Middle East, which you would get. Right. It was for example, Queers for Palestine. It was people who had no interest in a Palestinian state in Gaza. It was people who, if there were a Palestinian state in Gaza, would be thrown off the rooftops in Gaza. So why were they marching also? Well, what do all these people have in common? And the answer is very little, except a desire to tear down the Western system, the idea that the systems themselves are to blame for their problems. And so they put aside their own issues with each other to march together. And that coalition is the thing that frightens me and concerns me.
Are you of the belief?
I mean, this is classic victim mentality, right? Because in this, I'm not having an opinion on this. All I'm saying is that these people, it seems that Ben Shapiro is against free speech. They were just exercising their free speech, okay? I went to college, as you know, total waste of time, total waste of money, but whatever, I went to college. I had people telling me that Maduro was good, you know? I have family that passed because of lack of medicine in Venezuela, but they tell me Maduro's good, you know? And I can hear them out. I did not start crying and say this free speech, which is essentially what Ben Shapiro is doing here, makes me a victim and we need to fix it somehow. Because that would make me a victim mentality, wouldn't it, Ben Shapiro? A victim. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Dude, it's just the shamelessness is what gets me. You don't have a job. Your life sucks. Fix it. Me, millionaire, who has to hear these idiots talk to me about Israel in London. Put them in jail and let me write a book to make some money off of it. I'm not a victim. It's just crazy. It's crazy, crazy mentality, man.
Belief that Western civilization doesn't need to be torn down?
Yes.
Okay.
Western civilization needs to be upheld and
All right.
strengthened.
And define Western civilization according to Ben Shapiro.
Sure. So Western civilization, I have a whole book a few years back called The Right Side of History, where I sort of trace the evolution of Western civilization. Basically, the classical definition of Western civilization is the tension between Jerusalem and Athens. Jerusalem being biblical values, like Judeo-Christian values, and Athens being Greek reason. The idea that there's a tension between the two, and that in that interplay, you end up with things like the Renaissance, you end up with the Enlightenment, you end up with the outcome being balance of power in government and free speech and private property and free markets. And all of that is the evolutionary outgrowth of a certain level of biblical values, right? Traditional values, biblical living, combined with the application of reason to the world. And
the retcon bullshit that conservatives pull. The free market comes from the Torah and the Bible. Look, man, I'm not a communist here. As I've said repeatedly, I'm not a communist. What is he talking about? The idea for the free market, if we're going to go with like baby brain history, comes from Adam Smith out of Scotland. Not out of Nazareth, not out of Jerusalem, not out of Greece, the free market paradise of Greece, where they can't even manage the euro right. This is all retcon bullshit. What are they? What? Who falls for this? Who can fall? This guy is clearly, you see it in his body language that he is a born liar. A born liar. This man is profoundly evil because he is retconning all of history. All of history. I just don't see free markets. It has nothing to do with Athens or Jerusalem. It has to do with, and not even Anglo-Saxon, Scottish philosophy. And if you're trying to preserve Scottish philosophy, I mean, you go ahead and try, man. Go ahead and try. But just, I can't, the historical revisionism that conservatives do is truly pathetic. And it shows either they don't read or they cherry pick and they do insane stuff. And they say insane stuff like this. Because when I say insane, I'm not exaggerating. This is literally something a crazy person would say. A crazy person says this kind of stuff. Not anyone who, only a crazy, this is the equivalent if I told you, oh yeah, dude, I want to preserve Western civilization because, the Austro-Hungarian Empire is really the foundation of everything. You would look at that, you wouldn't be like, that's incorrect. You would say, no, this guy's crazy, or he read something wrong, or he's dyslexic, or he has some sort of mental disorder, or he has an interest in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. But this doesn't make sense. There is no sense to this. It is all lies. It is all lies.
to those values. And so that creates this kind of almost magical concoction that has its dark places. I mean, the history of Western civilization is not uncheckered, but leads to the great prosperity and freedom that we have today.
But when you talk about the great prosperity and the freedom that we have today, when you think about Western civilization, although that's a clear component of it and it comes associated with it, a lot of the chaos, a lot of the problems that we seem to be having in this world, a lot of people would look at Western civilization as being an instigator of such things because, it's not as if the rules are always applicable. Sometimes we look at things and we have this mentality that anything goes, and we allow us as a society to get away with things that in other places of the world where a bit more rigidity kicks in, that would not happen. What do you say to people that would make that argument when they think about Western civilization?
There's always legitimate grievances against any system. The question is whether the system as a whole is good and ought to be upheld, or whether it ought to be torn down to the ground. And I think that one of the key things to remember when it comes to the international order is that every agent is a motivated agent. I think that there's a tendency when we think about the world, particularly as members of the West, as Americans, we tend to think everybody's reacting to us. If somebody does something abroad, it's because of something America did. America did something, they're reacting to us. That's not actually the way that the world works. It turns out that there are many different cultures and many different peoples with their own interests. Mm-hmm. And so what you really have to ask is not why bad things happen all across the world. Bad things have been happening all across the world since the foundation of the world. The real question is why anything good happens. Right? The natural state of man is actually poverty. I mean, that was the state of mankind in about 1800. And then the Enlightenment happened, and private property and free markets. And suddenly you see an explosion in wealth that ends up crossing borders to the point where life expectancy jumps from the 30s to the 80s in westernized countries and jumps by decades even in non-completely westernized countries.
Not to be pedantic, but just because that everything is a lie. Life expectancy, they were counting infants. Okay, that's why it jumped. People were not living to 30 on average in the past. That's not true. This whole argument is just, it's all so tiresome, man. It really is tiresome because, dude, it's saying that we have this freedom and Stephen A. Smith is right. I hate to say it. What is the argument for preserving this thing, which is causing all of this instability? There probably is an argument. There's probably a good argument. No joke. No joke. I'm not saying that you should push this system over, but the system is clearly falling. And Ben Shapiro's answer is, it's money. It's all about GDP, like any conservative. It's all about the GDP, and people live longer and they get to consume longer and they get to make more money. Well, not everything's about money, man. There's a spiritual whole. And I don't think it's about the money.
And so, listen, everything is a mixed bag. That's just the nature of the world. But overall, Western civilization has been the greatest boon to mankind in the history of all civilization.
But you know this, and because of who you are and what you bring to the table. I mean, you understand when you're significant, when you have cachet. In the case of America, you're the superpower. You make up about 5% of the population and use about 25% of the world's resources. Some people say, I don't know how accurate that number is. Please don't hold me to that, because I don't know. But I just know that I've heard that on many, many occasions. People use that as an example. And to the victor goes the spoils, they say. So you look at a place like America, it's a superpower. We're supposed to be the richest country in the world, and it's perceived as being at the expense of so many other nations.
Right, and this is the problem. I don't think that's true.
Okay.
On a fundamental level, I do not think that is true.
Okay.
The United States is not rich because we have impoverished other nations. That is a zero-sum view of the world. People tend to apply it to domestic economics also. They'll say that Bill Gates is rich because some guy is poor.
And I'm not saying it is. I'm saying people said it, but I don't know.
No. And that's the argument that I'm fighting against, because what that leads...
This has to be a boomer thing. Like, it really has to be a boomer thing. This is fundamentally wrong. At the micro level, look, the reason that houses are too expensive, the reason they are, is because the currency is inflated. There is a shortage of supply. And there are rules and regulations by people that have assets to preserve the status quo. That is just the case. So yeah, people are screwed because other people are setting up rules to screw them. I guess that would be victim mentality. It's victim mentality to complain about, I don't know, dropping interest rates to 0 for 20 years. That's victim mentality. Dude, this is all mischaracterization, misdirection, lie, obfuscation. And this is why I truly think this explains why it has 50K views, because no one can fall for this stuff anymore. This is a conversation that should have died in 2019 at latest. This is completely fake. This is the ghost of George Bush.
Leads to is a desire to tear down people who are successful by blaming them for your lack of success. Right? If you go back to, again, those biblical values that I was talking about, one of the first stories in the book of Genesis, and maybe the most important, is the Cain and Abel story. And the Cain and Abel story, which I think is sort of the key story for all of humanity, really, in describing human nature, is Cain and Abel. Cain decides, let's bring sacrifices to God. And so he and his brother Abel, they bring sacrifices to God, and Abel's is accepted and Cain's is rejected. And at this point, God turns to Cain and he gives him a kind of pick-me-up speech. He says, listen, your sacrifice was not accepted. You have two choices. Sin crouches at your door. You can either choose to overcome it or you can succumb to your sin. You look inside, see if there's something you could do better, or you can blame your brother and you can kill your brother. And of course, Cain goes the wrong way, kills his brother, and ends up exiled. So I think that is the real question for all of us, right? Are the problems that we see in our own life things that are solvable? One of the most enervating things that we see in the West, and I think all over the world, is this belief system like, no matter what I do, I can't get ahead. No matter what I do, my problems are insoluble. It must be somebody else's fault. Now, in some cases, it is somebody else's fault. Of course. And in those cases, what I would hope is that we can provide evidence of why this person is harming you, how they're harming, and then we can all fight it together.
If that's the case, why in the book do you say?
Ben Shapiro has admitted that if you point out to him that interest rates are bad, or you know what really, I never understood that Ben Shapiro said was, Ben Shapiro is supposedly pro-life. Okay, that's a fine position to have. I'm fine with a pro-life position. Cool. He was asked if people should take up arms to stop the abortion of children. Obviously, that question is inflammatory. Obviously, that's an extremist position that people have taken. But if you sincerely believe this, you believe that children are dying, what is to stop that kind of action? And his counter argument was something about how you could fight it legally. Ben Shapiro did nothing. The Supreme Court is what stopped this. That's not voting. That's generations of voting that stopped abortion. And it didn't even stop abortion. It took it to the state level. So Ben Shapiro doing paid ad reads at the March for Life doesn't seem to actually be fighting anything that even he perceives as a moral wrong against someone. So I'm sorry, Ben, if I don't take your word that you're going to help me when I point out, maybe quantitative easing, maybe excess foreign policy are the reason that my life and the life of many in my generation is not where it should be at minimum, or maybe the fact that, they shut down the economy for 3 years when people were graduating or just getting their footing in the workforce. I guess their victim mentality, right, Ben? Their victim mentality. Because if Ben Shapiro were serious, he would say to, put the people in jail who shut down the economy, especially for a guy who loves free markets. But Audio Vibe says, I don't know who is actively listening and following this guy. I have no idea either. This is truly total brain rot. It's PBD level brain rot.
That the differences and the biggest reason for the divide in this country is not necessarily about red and blue, but it's about envy. Why do you say that?
Because, again, I think that this is not about red and blue at all. I think you see, again, a lot of grievance politics in the United States where people will say, just to take an example, Luigi Mangione, right, allegedly shoots the United Healthcare CEO on the streets of New York. And a bunch of people say, well, he deserved it because he was the United Healthcare CEO, and I don't like how the health insurance system runs, and therefore murder is okay. And it's like, well, no, if you don't like the system of healthcare, then we can have a discussion about how to change.
Who talks like that? Well, no. Dude, talk to people like an adult. What is that?
Okay. And it's like, well, no, if you don't like the system of healthcare, then we can have a discussion about how to change that. But the idea that cold-blooded murder is justified because you have a grievance against the healthcare system. Now you're talking about tearing down the entire system of law because you have a grievance with the healthcare system. Mm-hmm. The idea that we see in, I think, this New York mayoral race, which is that there's an affordability problem. The reason there's an affordability problem is because rich people exist. Billionaires should stop existing. If we just didn't have rich people, or if we somehow punished rich people, somehow this would make poor people richer.
This is how you know this is for boomer coded, man, because Zohar Mamdani, you may be critical of him. You may not like the guy, but he has never said that the reason people are poor is because billionaires exist. He has said that billionaires shouldn't exist, but he is just making up a statement, connecting things that are unconnected, that have not been said. Pure lies, man. Lies. Smears.
Whenever people talk about income inequality, I always start to curdle a little bit, because the reality is the problem is not income inequality. The problem is poor people need to be richer. Okay, the entire premise of the idea of income inequality is that rich people are rich because they're stealing from poor people. That's false. That's not true. Bill Gates did not get rich by stealing from poor people. Jeff Bezos did not get rich by stealing from poor people. That is not how you get rich, unless you're living in a hunter-gatherer society.
I don't even see how this, if your company produces profits and you use it for stock buybacks, how are you not stealing from wages that people could have? You're maximizing shareholder value. It's just, who do these arguments work on, man? How old do you have to be this stupid? You have to be like under the age of 13 maybe, and over the age of 75?
Jeff Bezos did not get rich by stealing from poor people. That is not how you get rich, unless you're living in a hunter-gatherer society, in which case your wealth is very much limited to how many berries and deer limbs are in your society. The way that people get rich is by innovating, risk-taking, creating better goods and services, but a politics that says your problems, your upset at the world, is not your own fault. It's the fault of the free market. It's the fault of private property. It's the fault of that billionaire over there. Let's go and tear him down. That is a very, very dangerous politics.
But I use the word opportunity as well. As a black man in America, we understand. Obviously, we don't believe everybody is racist or anything like that. And I think anytime you look at somebody who's not black and you automatically assume they're racist, you're wrong. You're wrong to think that way. But systemically, when we look at a system, particularly in America, where you're looking at a system that seems to be aimed against you, that seems to elevate a certain demographic above others. And you can look at policies, or you could look at laws, you could look at actions that are taken by people in positions of power, seemingly putting a group of people at a disadvantage compared to others.
This is going to get to some important parts. This is why we're still rolling. We're going to get through this. I know it sucks. But there are more important issues here that we're going to see that Ben Shapiro brings up.
That America has been guilty of from time to time throughout history. I mean, there's no denying that. What do you say to that?
So I think the word seems is the one that we need to get rid of there. So we need to, and the reason I say that is because there are policies that we can actually name that were racist policies, right? Redlining, Jim Crow, slavery, right? I mean, these are actual evil policies, and it is everyone's obligation, moral obligation, to fight those specific policies. And one of the things that I say a lot is that specificity is where agreement happens. Right? When we get specific about what we're talking about, we can find agreement. If we're talking in broad terms, it's very difficult to find agreement. So somebody will say the system is systemic. It's systemic racism.
But you know
that's too broad.
But you know,
I need to see the system. I need to see the problem, and then you and I can fight it together.
But
because otherwise, we're just ghost hunting.
You're right. But you know better than me, Ben, that it's a challenge to engage in specificity. You know some of these politicians, they do everything they can to be vague. They spin doctor at every turn. It's the ultimate challenge to pull it off. That's one of the biggest problems that I think has frustrated so many of Americans. You've got the progressive lefts on the extreme left side. You've got MAGA right in a lot of people. I'm not talking about you, but you got some folks associated with MAGA right that can be a bit extreme, and they're operating on the fringes, and that doesn't represent most of America, but nevertheless, they're the ones making the most noise because they're the ones who wear their frustrations on their sleeve. And
it's like 2020 and 2024 never happened to these people. Like every Gen Xer, every boomer is literally where anyone under the age of 40 was in 2016. We're talking about extremes, about bringing the country together. There is no bringing the country together. If you're a Democrat, dude, if you're a Democrat, your perception is that the current president of the United States tried to lead a coup and potentially try to eliminate his vice president, his own vice president, just 4 years ago, 5 years ago. That is your perception of the presidency. And more power to you, whether you agree or disagree, that is what Democrats feel like. All of them in some form or the other. If you're a Republican in this country, you perceive the Democratic Party as a fundamentally evil party. If you're on the extremes, you think that they eat babies and stuff, and that they are here to damage you, that they opened the border in order to destroy your society, get your children murdered and in some extreme cases, to replace you, to bring down wages. How are these people going to reconcile? This is way past divorce, man. If this were a marriage, this would be way past divorce. This is the point where, there's some domestic violence. There is no fixing this. There is no marriage counseling that Stephen A. Smith and Ben Shapiro can sit down for to fix this thing. Maybe I'm wrong. The only fix is to come in with the Men in Black flash gun and get people to forget everything. Because I don't see what the fix is. I mean, how can you fix this? Truly, Ben Shapiro, tell me how you fix this. Because I don't understand. I don't understand how someone can fix this. Everyone is just as justified in their own perception of the other as an enemy in this country. Dude, they're talking about putting people in prison from the last administration right now. What is this? People are issuing preemptive pardons. There is no healing this. And it's not me being a doomer. I'm just being realistic. Tell me how I'm not being realistic. Please, please. Please tell me if I'm being too negative. How am I being negative? All I'm saying is what everyone knows. Everyone knows this will not work out. I don't have a solution. But the idea that people are going to get over this is bullshit. This is North Korea, South Korea without the DMZ. It's just, and there kind of are DMZs. There are. People live in different states and different cities. This is, I don't know what America, this was an argument in 2015 or 2018. This is done. This is, after COVID, this argument is done.
In an alarming fashion.
Well, I mean, I think it's that last part that matters. The wearing the frustration on the sleeve without an actual specific solution is a problem. And again, it's not just a
So
left
you're saying you don't have
problem,
a problem with the problem. You're saying you have a problem with the divorce, with being absent of a solution.
Yes, because if you are labeling a grievance, then and you're just saying that I'm aggrieved, therefore the system is wrong. Maybe getting the diagnosis correct, right? You may have a grievance. There might be something that's wrong. Right? When Zohar Mamdani says
this guilting that Republicans like Ben Shapiro do, that I get this all the time in comments, man, because I'm a critic. I'm a critic. I'm just a critic. I don't have to give you solutions. You are not paying me for, you want solutions, pay me money. I will point out the problems. You want solutions, you pay consultants to find solutions. I can say what the problem is. I don't have to give you the solution. Ben Shapiro, why do I owe you any solution? I don't owe you anything. No one owes anyone anything. No one owes anyone anything. And no one, much less, owes someone a solution. Whether you agree or disagree, as Stephen A. Smith is saying, Black Americans, this is according to him, feel that they are being systemically hurt in this country. You may think this is right, incorrect, correct, doesn't matter. They don't owe you to explain how to fix it. Okay? And you can tell them that the problem's not there, if that's your solution, Ben Shapiro, and that's fine. Like that is actually better than telling them, well, I don't know if there is a problem because you're not coming with a solution. You're only coming with a problem. Because that is gaslighting. That is driving people insane. And that is the goal of people like Ben Shapiro, to drive you crazy, to drive you insane. This is designed to drive you crazy. Otherwise, what else? What's up, Will? This is why Democrats capitulated to a right is stupid. Kamala campaigned with Liz Cheney, a stronger border, having Republicans in her cabinet, all to win less Republican voters than Biden in 2020. Yeah, dude, I don't see the argument for coming together. You're completely right. Electorally, it doesn't make sense. Even as a cold, calculating political move, you're completely right. It does not make sense to do this kind of thing. Why would you do it? It's stupid. It doesn't work. John McCain lost. He tried that shit too. No one buys this stuff, man. No one buys it. And I gotta say, this conversation is too little, too late. But more importantly, it's insulting. It's insulting to tell people to buy my book. Let me grift Because what? Why, Ben Shapiro? Why? Because you have solutions? No, you don't have solutions. You don't even have the right conversation. This is someone arguing with you about what kind of wheel to put on their horse and buggy. And I'm sitting here like, dude, I'm like, they're angry with you. They're going, hey, this is the best wheel because the thoroughbred horse is going to bring too much horsepower and I'm just sitting here like, okay, dude, well, I drive a Mazda, so I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. But they want you to get angry. They want you to get into the conversation. You know, they want, and you're like, dude, I don't care about horse and buggy features. I don't. It's just crazy.
New York is unaffordable. He's right. Of course New York is unaffordable. But all of his prescriptions suck because they're all rooted in the idea that the reason New York is unaffordable is because rich people exist or because of the free market or because of private property.
And this dismissive stuff, man, this is why I even though I'm not a DSA guy or anything like that, man, you're telling me it's all they all suck, in his words. They all suck. So the part about, I don't know, lowering property taxes on people that pay more than other people who make more sucks. That part sucks. This eliminationist view of the other, you are contributing to what you're complaining about, Ben Shapiro. You are contributing to it. You are a disgusting man, dude. Like, you're truly a disgusting man. Lower, dude, Ben Shapiro is one of the lowest figures, one of the more base figures of our society right now, man. And he hides it behind these little fleece jackets and crap. This is a person that thrives on making people feel divided and hurt. That's his only mission in life. What other conclusion can I draw?
So you just need to tear those systems down and all will be fixed. Well, I mean, that's magical thinking. And it's actually quite terrible magical thinking. Mm-hmm. People always have to, there are always things that are wrong in our lives. The question is, how do we address the things that are wrong in our lives in a practical way? And I think politicians have a real stake in airing grievances and talking about the grievances because they seem empathetic when they do. You seem very empathetic. We say, listen, I totally understand your affordability problem. I feel with you the affordability problem. Therefore, give me enormous amounts of power, and I'm just going to kill all the rich people. No, the connection between A and B does not exist. And so what I'm objecting to is that entire logic. Let's say that New York is unaffordable. Okay, so how do we actually correct that? Well, we could look at the regulatory policies with regard to development and building. How long does it take to actually get a clearance to build more units in New York, for example? Right? We could look at the tax rates. We could look at how investment is done. What's the regulatory red tape? Right? These are all issues that we can all look at. And when we talk about this, it turns into a very, very reasonable discussion. Right. And for most people, it probably will turn into a reasonable discussion.
Who wants a reasonable discussion? This is the appetite I don't understand. Ben Shapiro, first of all, the man who's supposed to have solutions. You owe me a solution, dude. You owe the voters of New York a solution. You're on the Stephen A. Smith show. Clearly, you see it as a valuable place to get views. So you need to offer people solutions outside of what Mamdami's offering. Otherwise, you're just complaining. And if we're just complaining, then we're blah, 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 blah. Just crap. But no, that's all. I just don't get it. He doesn't know what the solution is. He's just spitballing here, regulatory stuff. And I'm sure he's right. But he's the one who said you have to come up with a solution. And I'm not hearing a solution, Ben Shapiro. I can't hear a peep.
If it turns into New York is unaffordable, I understand you can't afford your rent. The reason you can't afford your rent is because that guy over there with the really nice apartment is screwing you. And he's part of a shadowy system that I can't even really describe. It's a shadowy system that's out there. And behind that shadowy system are sinister men. And those sinister men are seeking to harm you. Now you're getting into a really dangerous area because that can be used as an excuse for violence. It typically is. It can be used as an excuse to tear away systems that actually uphold the prosperity of the polity that you're seeking to govern.
Lions and Scavengers, your book, the timing of it.
Will says Ben Shapiro thinks raising the corporate tax rate 3.5% equals killing every rich person. Right, using this kind of... You're right, he literally said that talking like this, pointing to... This is what they hate, man. They hate when you can point specifically to people who have messed up your life. You can point specifically to Dick Cheney, to Barack Obama, and say that they did things that were bad. Barack Obama, You continued quantitative easing. Dick Cheney, you started 3 wars. You lowered the interest rates in order to do that. I don't care what you say. But you can't do that because it would lead to violence. How is just blaming people for what they did wrong leading to violence? I just want to know. And if it is, theoretically, if it is, maybe they shouldn't have done that stuff. Unless I'm completely wrong. Unless I'm completely wrong, and I'm saying that, and what I'm saying is that Obama didn't do that. I'm slandering Barack Obama. I'm libeling Barack Obama. I'm libeling George Bush and Dick Cheney. But I'm not. So we can't name names here? Why can't we name names? I'm not saying to do anything about it. I don't think you should do anything about it. I don't think being violent is good. But we can't even name names. I mean, what is this? Where does this even come from? I just don't get where this became popular. You have to name names sometimes, dude. If you're in court, this is Ben Shapiro in court as a defense attorney. Your Honor, you want to blame my client here, Ted Bundy, for the murder of all these young girls. But you are doing something that may lead to violence. Yes, Ben Shapiro, we are going to give him the death sentence. This is going to lead to violence towards him. But, Your Honor, that's not fair. Well, Ben Shapiro, you should have defended your... Do you see how ridiculous this doesn't apply anywhere else in life. Anywhere else in life. Imagine if you came home to your wife or your husband and they have, I don't know, crashed the car into the house. They have injured your child while they were inebriated and going crazy. They're drunk and going crazy. Do you go, well, I can't blame them because it could lead to violence. Let me just, identify the problem and suggest a solution. No, you don't do that. Conservatives have this real issue where you can't talk like a normal human being. You can't address things that are wrong. You can't say, hey man, maybe you shouldn't have gotten drunk. Victim mentality. But you hurt the kid. You're not offering a solution. It's just crazy. Like, who talks like this? This is like talking not even to someone who like an antisocial personality. This is like talking to a robot. This is insane. This is crazy people way of thinking. And they cloak it. Because when I say crazy, I mean it. Once again, only a crazy person would think, and they cloak it in this, at least he's wearing a nice watch, but this terrible outfit. I mean, it looks like J. Crew. But no, like it's just crap.
I brought up earlier. One would think that this is something you would write if the problem wasn't being addressed and you felt compelled to address it and to compel leadership like the White House the administration in the White House right now to do so. Are you of the mindset that are you hopeful that this is what this book accomplishes? Or do you believe that the present administration has inched or leaned towards addressing exactly what your fears are, and you're just assisting in that regard?
So, I think the administration is doing some things I agree with. They're doing some things that I disagree with. I think overall the orientation of the administration is a sort of take responsibility. With that said, I do think that there is, again, a heavy portion of politics that has arisen on the right as well that basically says you're suffering, and the reason you're suffering is because of immigration or because of the Chinese or because of shipping of jobs elsewhere. Okay, maybe that's true, but I want to see the evidence that that's true. I want to see the actual evidence that you are going to be able to bring jobs back if given this amount of power.
Look at that sleight of hand. That trickery that Ben Shapiro's pulling. Show me that it's true, he says, but in the next sentence following, show me that you're going to bring the jobs back. So we moved the goalpost twice there. Because if you are of the belief that immigration has cut your job and that you're entitled to that belief, I'm not going to challenge it. And I'm sure I'm sure people know, like, I'm not saying whether they're right or wrong, but people are entitled to that belief. They are entitled to it, okay? That free trade ruined their factory, you're entitled to that belief. And Ben Shapiro's going to tell you, I need evidence that that's the case. And then when you bring him evidence, he did this sleight of hand. This, look at this key. I'm Ben Shapiro. Look at this card key. It's going to disappear. It's sleight of hand. It is trickery to say, you have to show me that you're going to get the job back. That's a completely different place to be. You are a liar. You're lying. You're telling people they have to be somewhat total. And you can break down these little tricks just by watching this stuff. That's why that's the alpha I'm giving you here today, is watching this stuff can show you that these people are sick. They are fundamentally sick, and they have no problem lying to your face and tricking you, like just tricking you. He changed it. Let's play it again so you can hear it.
Shipping of jobs elsewhere. Okay, maybe that's true, but I want to see the evidence that that's true. I want to see the actual evidence that you are going to be able to bring jobs back.
He didn't even throw in an and. It is a total lie. A total bit of trickery. Trickery. Chicanery. It's just crazy. YC says, do you have a source for that claim? Yes. Everything that he hates about the liberals, he does. It's crazy. It's crazy. Audio says, facts don't care about your feelings. Right, facts don't care about your feelings, Ben Shapiro. Fucking idiot. TL Orca, what's up, man? I haven't seen you here before. Nice cat. I have a very similar looking cat. People are brought up to lie. I'm sure Ben Shapiro, dude, like there's no way, no one suddenly gets this good at lying. Like Ben Shapiro, he's from Hollywood, right? I mean, Hollywood is, I worked in film. Everyone lies in film. Everyone lies in film. It's probably in the culture. He's from Los Angeles. I don't know. But I'm not accusing him of lying because I don't agree with it. I'm telling you, he just did a lie. Whether you're right or left or anything, he just lied. Like he lied.
If given this amount of power. Because otherwise, what I kind of think you're doing is you are empathizing with people in order to achieve power, and then you kind of do what you want. What I'm calling for is a much more mature conversation about maybe the reason why, for example, too many people are impoverished in the United States, which I think we can all agree. Maybe the reason for that is because we actually need more individuals doing three things: graduating high school, getting married before they have babies, and getting a job. Right?
This to me was crazy to hear. He's been saying this since 2015. Graduating from high school, first of all, that's bullshit because student loans are at an all-time high. Everyone is graduating high school. In fact, too many people are graduating high school and college. Not having babies before getting married. The TFR is going down. It's only supplemented by immigration. No one is doing this anymore. And what was the last one? He's been saying this for 10 years.
Doing three things: graduating high school, getting married before they have babies, and getting a job.
And getting a job. Dude, the statistic came out this week. There are less jobs available than people who, I'm sorry. It's a little much. There are less jobs available in this country right now than people who are unemployed. This is not feasible as a policy. This is a lie. And that's going by the lie unemployment rate because the real one is much higher. Everything he said there is a lie. It's a lie. Everything there. That's crazy. If I did that to someone, I would be put in jail for gaslighting. For like if you did this to someone in a personal relationship, they would be seriously. This is emotional abuse. This is abuse. No one has these problems. In fact, people have the opposite problems now. Just lies. TL Orca says, seriously, preaching individualism is a psychology trick. I completely agree with you, TL Orca. I think, because I've noticed it. Have you ever meet a narcissist? I've met a couple of them. Actually, like one that I think for sure was a narcissist. And you hang out with them, they do this. They preach individualism, not even in a political context, in a blame you for everything. And by the end of it, you feel you're going crazy. So yes, you are completely right. I completely agree with you. Individualism is crap. It is, no, I'm not saying it's crap, okay? Individualism has its place in talking or something. It probably has its place. All these ideologies have their place, right? Individualism, collectivism, whatever. But this is insane. Like this is weaponizing individualism as a concept. So, you know, TL says, I'm 51, I've met plenty. I have only met one real narcissist, man. And it was very scary. Like, by the end of the week, I was hanging out with the guy and I was like, this guy's crazy. And there is no reason I should be feeling this depressed right now. And I looked up online what narcissists do. And it said it. And I was like, okay, I get it. Dude, it's crazy. Please like, comment, subscribe, everyone. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Consider becoming a member. $1.99 a month. We're almost at 900 subs. Let's break it. Thank you for coming in, TL. I'm glad you're enjoying the content. Let's continue because he gets into another lie that's really disgusting.
Right, and if you do those three things, you will not be permanently poor in the United States. 2%.
You will not be permanently poor in the United States. I don't even know what that means, permanently poor. Everyone in this country since 2008 has been permanently poor in relative to before. And in absolute terms, yeah, too, also. Everyone lives on credit in this country. So what is it? And you know what's crazy? Is if you really think about it, what Ben Shapiro is saying here, what he's saying here for real, he's talking about black people, but he won't say it. And Hispanic people. He's talking about minorities. He's saying, and this isn't even true for minorities anymore, dude. This isn't true. I have seen it in the Hispanic community. It is my community. No one is getting pregnant at 16 anymore. This does not happen. No one does this. They all go to college. I went to college. He's talking about minorities. But he can't say it because it'll be racist or whatever. But even if he did, this is incorrect. It's incorrect. Dude, this is weaponized individualism, as TL pointed out, and a sort of like cloaked racism that is very, very, I won't even say racism, a cloaked racialism that is very unappealing and disgusting, in my opinion. TL says, you have a nice voice. Thank you, TL. I appreciate it. I'm sure you have a nice voice, too.
In the United States, you do those three things, end up permanently poor in the United States. What can we do to facilitate that? Maybe the thing that we need people to do is take responsibility for when they get up in the morning, making better decisions. That's actually the thing that can make the most difference in everybody's life, right? In my life, if I make better decisions, that's going to make a hell of a lot more difference than whatever public policy Donald Trump.
This is Jordan Peterson tier slop, dude. Yeah, I'm going to get up and I'm going to make better decisions. The dollar has lost half its value relative to gold in 3 months. In 3 years. What better decisions was I supposed to make? What stock? The better decision was to take all your wages and put all your money in Nvidia. That's it. That's it. What is the other option? What is the better decision, Ben Shapiro? Tell me.
Pushes today. There's a place for public policy, but the reality is that in a country as free and as prosperous as ours, and historically speaking, and by context, we're unbelievably prosperous and unbelievably free. That means that the vast majority of your life is in your hands, which should actually be a pretty activating message. It should make people feel enthusiastic about going and grasping. What I'm afraid of is an enervation that's setting in, a sort of a lassitude, a belief that no matter what I do, I can't get ahead, and therefore I need to tear things down.
But two things can be true. What you just said can be absolutely true and applicable to a large degree, but it still doesn't eradicate or negate the fact that there has been oppression in this country. There are still people being oppressed to some degree because you have the glass ceiling, the proverbial glass ceiling, the curtain where you don't get to necessarily see definitively or to connect definitively what people are doing to hold others back. There are people that have been held back. Everything, even though it should be about merit, and most things may very well be about merit, we do have instances in this country where a meritocracy, the one that we aspire to exist and live under, doesn't necessarily exist. You're not denying that, are
No,
you?
of course that's true. But what I'm saying is that in the first instance, we should assume that if there's a problem, we can solve it.
Wait for it. We have a good lie coming up. A crazy one.
On a personal
That
level.
should be your instinctual.
That should be your first move. Your first move as a person should be to say, okay, let's assume that the problem is not the system, the problem is me. And then I'm going to work as hard as I can. And then if it turns out I still can't succeed, maybe it's the system, and then I need to actually investigate what in the system needs to change in order so that I can succeed. Because now when you get to specifics, you might be able to find a solution. Where I can't get to a solution is there's somebody, I can't quite name whom, who is obstructing me, getting in my way, creating something that I can't quite name what, that is preventing me from success. How am I supposed to solve that? There's no way. It's like you go into the doctor and you say, I hurt. And the doctor says, where? And you say, well,
I don't know.
I don't know. I hurt.
Right.
Like, okay, well, what am I supposed to
If you go to the doctor and you say, I hurt, it's not very specific. It's not a good thing. Why would you do that? Maybe you have a limited vocabulary. Maybe English is your second language or even your third language. Maybe you don't understand what they're saying when they say, where? The doctor's responsibility, according to the Hippocratic Oath, is to do no harm. Which implicitly, but in reality doesn't, implies they have to make you better. If someone is hurt and they're saying, I hurt, and it's not visible, the doctor has to figure out what it is. And through communication, this example is ridiculous. If you went to the doctor and you go, let's say you're like someone who doesn't speak any English. No, I hurt. Oh, I hurt. Oh, I hurt. Doctor goes, where? And you go, I hurt. Well, the doctor could probably see, oh, look, they have their hand here. Maybe it has something to do with this area here in their body. Let's start there. Sir, please move your, I hurt. Oh, and then they check. Maybe. Okay? There is no, what is this absolved responsibility that Ben Shapiro's preaching? Doctors don't have to help people that have a limited vocabulary? T.L. Walker says, the only time I got suspended from Twitter was before Xmas replying to Ben Shapiro. That's funny. I think I've been muted. YC says, what did you tell Ben Shapiro that got you banned? I yelled at him in 2017 about being a C word. Made me look him up. Did he know his family? Oh, we're going to get into that, TL. Don't worry.
supposed to do about that? There's nothing I can do about that.
That's fair. But the flip side to that is that you do have people, like for example, you say this is not about red, this is not about blue, this is not about Republicans or liberals. This is about America and what exists here and what's been problematic for us for so long. So why is it that conservatives give the impression that that's what goes on the left, but doesn't necessarily go on with them?
Well, again, I think that there is, particularly in the economic realm, a tend to zero-sum thinking that does predominate on the left more than on the right. Right? If I were to say to you, there's a politician. The politician says that you've been screwed by the system. That's the reason you're poor. We need to go after the rich. The rich are the bad guys. You're immediately going to assume that I'm talking about somebody on the left. Now, there are some people on the right who think like that, by the way, but predominantly that the sort of oppressor-oppressed matrix tends to exist more on the left. It is horseshoeing around to the right. You are seeing this on the populist right now. Yep. And that's why I really did not want to turn this into like a right-left conversation. I think that certain things here are much more predominant on the left than on the right, but I do think that they exist on the right. And again, I think that sometimes they exist even internally within individuals. I think that sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm pissed off and angry that somebody who's in my line of work is successful. And I think to myself, man, the systems are...
I think he gave the game away, by the way. That's why he wrote his book. I'm telling you, it's because Daily Wire is doing poorly. Those people are going to be out of business. Someone's going to rescue them. They're not going to be able to show their books, though. Someone will rescue them.
They're just screwing me. And you know what? That is not a great way to go through your life. It is a bad way to go through your life. I ought to try to discover a way that I can do better in order to succeed.
Lions and Scavengers, how do you believe liberals are going to view this book? How do you believe conservatives are going to view this book?
So I think that obviously because I'm a political conservative, conservatives are probably going to read it as though I'm critiquing only the left, and liberals may assume that I'm critiquing only the left as well. But it was interesting. I did an interview with Ezra Klein of the New York Times a couple of days ago, and Ezra, pretty rationally understood that that's not what I was talking about, right? And
I'm listening to you. I don't get that's what you're talking about either.
Right, and I think that's the thing that I would encourage people to do is actually, if you pick up the book and you read the book, what you'll realize is that...
Do not read this book. Please don't give this man money, dude. Do not... Actually, go buy Ben Shapiro's book. Please buy it. Buy it. Buy 2 copies. Give it out at Christmas. Everyone should be reading this book. If everyone reads this book, we will solve world hunger, racism, anti-Semitism, foreign policy, world hunger, and The Crisis in Darfur. Please buy this book. This book changed my life.
Again, this is a problem that is only solvable really at an individual level. I think it's about what you teach your kids. Right? I have 4 kids, 11, 9, 5, and 2. And the thing that I'm constantly teaching my kids is they'll say, this isn't fair. And if you're a good parent, I think most of the time you say, well, life isn't fair. Like, get over it and figure out exactly how to succeed. But it's a thing that we don't say politically, right? Because politicians aren't going to get elected on that. Right. If you say my life isn't fair and my life sucks, and a politician says, well, life isn't fair.
One could easily argue Trump got elected by saying that.
Well,
I mean, they could argue. They can make that argument.
I agree with this. I mean, one of the things that President Trump said back in 2016 is he said, "I alone can fix." Right? It's a statement that I really don't like. I don't think that any president alone can fix.
I wonder, dude, if my kid came home and they were like, "Mommy, Daddy, the teacher showed me funny naked pictures at school and they touched me weird," I'm not gonna go, "Life isn't fair." Is this he suggesting? I know I'm taking it to the extreme, like a reducto ad absurdum, but he's kind of suggesting that, right? I mean, the victim mentality thing we covered yesterday is suggesting that. It's suggesting to say, life isn't fair. Buckle up, kiddo. Oh, I fell out of the moving car, Dad, and I broke my leg. Life isn't fair, bitch. Get up. Like, dude, it's like, who responds positively to this? Taupe, what's up, Taupe? I found a free copy online, allegedly. Please share that link. It won't go up in the chat, man. On Twitter. We gotta get everybody reading this book. You gotta get Nicolas Maduro and Bukele and Xi Jinping and Putin reading this book. This book will save the world. Please, Taupe, make sure you get it into Vladimir Putin's hands. He will end the war in Ukraine once he reads Ben Shapiro's book. And TL Orca says, who talks like that? I have no idea who talks like this, man. This is a crazy... this is the ideology of an insane person.
And what I've said, and someone's asked me, if you ran for president, which I would never do, if you ran for president, what would you campaign on? And what I said is, I would campaign on, I'm going to get everybody out of the way so you can solve your own problems. That's all I can do. I can't solve your problems for you. You can solve your problems for you. What I can do is remove the obstructions that stand in your way, that, policies that, for example, are biased against you or a group like you. Like I can get rid of that, but I can't make you succeed. I can't make a poor person rich. What I can do is create conditions where if a poor person makes good decisions, that they will get richer. Right? That's the best I can do. But no politician is going to tell you that, because if a politician says that, then it puts the onus back on you to make good decisions.
What do you say to a bunch of people, there were thousands of them, that lost their jobs because Trump got back in office and courtesy of executive orders, he decided, whether it's DEI programs or anything else, he decides that, these people don't need to be there. And ultimately, they ended up losing their jobs. And they did work hard.
We're speaking to fired government employees. Listen, you may not like the jobs they did. These people they had a family. They had kids. They had bills to pay. They had a mortgage. They had a car note. Maybe their job was useless. Maybe they weren't even good employees. What do you say to them? YC says, raise your right hand. I swear I will read Ben Shapiro's book. Absolutely. Absolutely. TL says, I wash my hands.
Did have good work ethic. They were gainfully employed. They were able to pay their bills, et cetera, et cetera. And now all of that is in jeopardy. What do you say to those people?
Well, I don't think it's a moral wrong any more than it's a moral wrong for a company to fire employees.
It's not a moral wrong. It's not a moral wrong. We're not even starting with, that sucks, man. Here's a cigarette and a beer. You need it gluten-free, you have celiac, here's a gluten-free beer. Lucky Strike, Camel, what do you want? 15 minutes, I'm going to hear you bitch. That sucks. I'm sorry for you. Let me help you get a job. None of that. Immediately to, it's not morally wrong to fire you, you scum. This is crazy.
Because under certain conditions, people shouldn't be employed. I mean, I agree with a lot of the cuts that President Trump made to the government. Since you and I are paying the bill for that, okay. I guess we get to decide as the employers whether people ought to continue to be retained in those positions. But for anybody who loses their job, the next move is, okay, so how do I better my skill set, find another job, and start working again. I don't know a single person. I mean, Stephen, you deal with people who are very, very wealthy all the time. I also deal with people who are very wealthy. I don't know.
This is the part. This is what we've been waiting for. After this, we're going to stop with this. We're going to get into the final story, which is very short. I just need to hear this from his mouth.
Also deal with people who are very, very broke.
100%. But the point about the wealthy is, I would say the vast majority of people I know who are wealthy failed a bunch of times before they discovered the thing that made them wealthy. Mm-hmm. Like this is kind of a common, I would say a common misconception is that people, who are very successful in business were instantly successful in business. The best phrase for this is you were an overnight success 10 years in the making.
Everyone who's wealthy, including Ben Shapiro, failed a bunch of times. Let's get confirmation on that. Let's get confirmation on that, please. List me Ben Shapiro's career track, including his high school and university experience and all of his jobs and positions. Let's see how many times Ben Shapiro failed. Skipped 2 grades. Graduated from Yeshiva University High of Los Angeles at 16. Undergraduate. Attended UCLA. Graduated in 2004 with a BA in political science. Law school. Earned a JD from Harvard Law in 2007. At 17, became the youngest nationally syndicated columnist in the U.S. Authored multiple books beginning in his early 20s, often focused on U.S. politics. Legal career. After law school, worked at Goodwin Procter LLP, an international law firm. Later practiced independently while expanding his media presence. 2013 to present, wrote syndicated columns carried by Creator Syndicate, Town Hall, Breitbart, and blah, 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 blah. Okay. Ben Shapiro has never failed. Does Ben Shapiro's family have connections or say had big careers, including his extended family? What advantages could he have used to get ahead? His mother worked in television as an executive. His father worked as a composer in Hollywood. This put the family in the Los Angeles entertainment industry, though not at the highest levels. His sister's an opera singer and a conservative YouTube online figure. His family's well-connected in Los Angeles cultural and media scene. His cousin is Mara Wilson, the child actress from Matilda and Mrs. Doubtfire. She later became a writer. Advantages that could have helped. Location, growing up in L.A. Family in media and entertainment. Elite education, skipping grades. UCLA at 16, Harvard at 20. Youthful prodigy branding. At 17, he was marketed as the youngest nationally syndicated columnist. Wealth and his stability. His family was not ultra-rich from middle to upper class. This likely gave him financial security to take risks. Dude, and as TL mentioned, his family wrote the TV series Dynasty. Like, this guy has never had any struggle in his life. Not a single struggle, Ben Shapiro. He has never had anything go wrong. Nothing go wrong in his life. Nothing. It's not Steve Jobs, who we may be critical of, but Steve Jobs, he was adopted and it weighed on him mentally. Okay, he failed. He failed with the next computer. He failed with the Lisa, but he came back and put it back together. Okay, it's not who else, dude? Like a lot of people, he's right. A lot of people have failed and they have come back. Mike Lindell, you may love him or hate him, was a literal crack addict, and then he made the My Pillow company. Okay, that's a guy who failed. He failed at life and came back. Very rare. Ben Shapiro has never failed. Ray Kroc, founder of McDonald's, failed his whole life and finally took off in his 50s. These people actually failed. Ben Shapiro had everything planned out for him since he was a child. And he should not be ashamed of that. That's fine, dude. It's fine. But don't come at me with this bullshit, painting yourself as a real businessman who has had the trials and tribulations of real business. Your family was connected. Dude, I worked in film. If your dad is coasting enough to be a fucking composer, then no, dude, like, you are connected. You work in entertainment and media. You have a sister that was in Matilda. You had everything going for you. Everything. And I'm not saying be ashamed of it or say that it's wrong. But when you gaslight people and tell them, I failed. I failed a million times. No, you didn't. You didn't fail at anything. You failed at nothing. You won. What can I point to and say Ben Shapiro failed at? Total scum. Don't let this guy in your head. Tope says, I remember when Shapiro said there shouldn't be an age for retirement and that people should work until they're dead. Dude, his dad's a composer. His dad should keep composing till this is a, and I hate this word, but it is a privilege that is so resounding and disgusting that you hear from people. I heard this all the time in the film industry, man. It's all crap. Wise says, he's right. Why do you need all that free time? Tope says, it's always these guys that talk the most shit about life being unfair and that you're owed nothing. Dude, it's always, and it's fine to be connected. Don't feel any shame about it. Dude, if you guys are connected, I'm happy for you. But this is crap. So look, for our final story, I think Tucker Carlson may be gay. Allegedly. I'm not getting sued. All I'm saying is he interviewed Michael Knowles today. Well, I don't think he's gay. I don't know his personal life. I've heard that he was a kind of actor. Actors, they swing both ways at minimum. Usually, I'm not accusing him. I don't know his personal life. I know Tucker Carlson is supposedly married. That never stopped anyone else. Okay, and sometimes you gotta put on a public face and have a private face. And there's nothing wrong with being gay. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying. I don't like people living in embarrassment, okay? And I think that Tucker Carlson may be gay. And I'm not saying that in a way to be mean. I'm saying this with a lot of empathy in my heart, sincerely. If Tucker Carlson is gay, I feel for him. I feel for his wife and his children. I hope he can sort these things out. But the way he was talking on this interview with Michael Knowles, I was like, if I'm Tucker Carlson's wife, I gotta, maybe she knows. Maybe it's part of it's fine. It's fine. And Tucker Carlson, look, man, he's done good work sometimes. I actually liked his book, Ship of Fools. I thought it was an interesting book. It had interesting history in it. Those books usually suck. So nothing against the guy. Seriously. All right, so here you have it. This is his interview with Michael Knowles. But this clip here, he published out of context to promote the thing, and this is what really made me suspicious. Okay,
I don't know Pete Buttigieg,
the fake gay guy.
I have a friend who thinks he's a.
I don't like Pete Buttigieg. I don't like him. I haven't questioned his sexuality. He says he's a homosexual. That's fine by me. Dude. It's okay to be, dude. Sincerely, it's okay. Marriage equality is the law of the land. I think it's rude to question people's sexuality.
Fake gay. Or is this
my gay producer was always like, he's not gay. He was with a girl like 20 minutes ago and he wants to be the Democratic nominee. It's like, time for a gay guy.
It's playing the long game.
Well, it's suffering for your art. I'll say that.
Just because I don't know him, I know 100 Pete Buttigiegs. I know this character.
Oh, I do too.
He went to the elite school, and then he goes to McKinsey, and then he does the checks.
Then finds some benighted Midwestern town that he can just like become mayor of.
Plop, I'm a mayor. I was talking to a big Democrat figure, and he said, say what you will about Pete. He's the greatest careerist we've ever seen. You're mayor of this tiny town. You become the Secretary of Transportation.
No, but of course. But the town kind of sucks, actually. He didn't do a good job. If it didn't have the college.
This is all fine except the beginning, but wait.
I've always wanted to interview him. He's never agreed to interview, but I'm going to ask him like some very specific questions about gay sex and see if he can even answer. I doubt he even knows.
Where does...
Yeah, no, totally.
I'm not
gay, dude. Stop. I doubt he even... I'm going to ask him like... college, but I've always wanted to interview him. He's never agreed to interview, but I'm going to ask him like some very specific questions about gay sex and see if he can even answer. I doubt he even knows.
Where does...
Yeah, no, totally.
I'm not
gay, dude. college, but I've always wanted to interview him. He's never agreed to interview, but I'm going to ask him like some very specific questions about gay sex and see if he can even answer. I doubt he even knows.
Where does...
Yeah, no, totally.
I don't...
You're not gay, dude. Stop.
In the words of Tariq Nasheed, Tucker, get that thong out your bussy, playboy. Dude. What? And the comment, the top comment, fuck, man. Don't tell me I lost it. There was a funny one. God damn, dude. I know that, okay, I'm obviously being a little humorous. But I'm not. Dude. Come on, like, let me... I don't get it. Like, how can you... I've never met a heterosexual man who even as a joke has said, brother, I got to ask you about this, all this gay sex you're having to make sure you're actually a homosexual. This is crazy. Is this a coming out? It's okay to come out, dude. Like, it's actually okay. This is, dude, let's play it one more time. Dude, I'm not telling you it's okay to not okay to be gay. It's fine. It's perfectly okay. Fine by me. But look at, like,
the town kind of sucks. Actually, he didn't do a good job. If it didn't have the college, but I've always wanted to interview him. He's never agreed to interview, but I'm going to ask him like some very specific questions about gay sex and see if he can even answer. I doubt he even knows.
Where does...
Yeah, no, totally.
I don't...
You're not gay, dude. Stop.
And here I found the reply.
I don't know if he's Buttigieg.
The fake gay.
What? I guess they hit it. Weird flex, Tucker. You're gonna ask him very specific questions about gay sex to prove what? You know more about gay sex than he does? Dude, oh. Why? Was it all up front? Motorcycles? It's fine. It's fine. As I said, Tucker Carlson, I liked his book. It's a... YC says, whoa, look, man, nothing... It would be gross for Tucker Carlson to put out an interview asking about homosexual sex. I don't know much about homosexual sex. I've never been curious about it, honestly. I haven't. Nothing against... I'm not condemning it. I'm not saying anything's wrong with it. I'm just saying I have never had an interest, as Tucker Carlson seems to have, to learn about that lifestyle. It's just not for me. It's not for me, and it's fine if you are, but... You know, Tope says, wait, how would he know he's answering correctly? That's what I'm wondering, right? Like, this is an admission of sorts. Will says Lamau. Tope says, stop appropriating my lifestyle, Tucker Carlson. Probably, what does he mean by sucks? And YC says, I doubt he knows. Guys, I don't know what this means.
He's never agreed to interview, but I'm going to ask him like some very specific questions about gay sex and see if he can even answer. I doubt he even knows.
And Michael Knowles' laugh is a little sus too. Michael Knowles, I think he's Italian. They're not very cool with that. So maybe I'm not accusing anyone. I would never do that. But this is sus.
Where does...
Yeah, no, totally.
I don't...
You're not gay, dude. Stop.
All right. That's all we got, man. This is your politics, dude. It's Ben Shapiro gaslighting you and Tucker Carlson talking about how he's going to ask Democrats about the specifics of homosexual relations. And, I mean, what is there left to say? Keep voting. Voting's real important. This is what matters. So, you know, if Tucker Carlson is really, you know, if he's living in agony, hiding behind something, which is okay, you know, all right. But I hope he finds peace. And I hope Ben Shapiro finds peace. With that, everyone, I have to go torture myself now and watch the Bill Maher show, as you know I do on Fridays. If it's aired, I don't even know if it aired. He had Woody Allen on his podcast this week. Odd to see Woody Allen in public, but guys, you know, please like, comment, subscribe. Consider becoming a member. It's $1.99 a month. Helps more than you know. we will probably have an interview next week with a guy that I found on Twitter who's pretty interesting. He's a Trump critic from the right, it seems. Couldn't decipher everything. His economic data is great. His financial data is great. And it should be a fun interview. Second interview of the show. So it should be fun. And, I appreciate you guys. Go watch this. Make sure you read Ben Shapiro's book. And I don't know, touch up on your gay corn, right? So that you can see if Pete Buttigieg is actually a homosexual. All right, everyone have a great night. I'm be doing a video a day of the rant style videos. I did one about insurance that came out today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Get in there, please like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate it. More off the cuff, like the old school channel. That'll be a members only video after a while. We'll try to do those every day because I have a lot on my mind. I appreciate you guys tuning in. YC, TL, share the channel. I hate everything. Taupe. Have a great weekend, everyone. 4HL, dude, it's over. Go enjoy the first week of winter. Well, it's not winter, fall, pre-fall. See you guys.
My pride.